Our next speaker is a junior this fall at the University of Oregon and is studying accounting, psychology, and finance. Bryant McLaughlin has served the Oregon chapter as president, vice president of finance, and as a judicial board member. Delta Upsilon means many things to many people, and that is no different for Bryant. In fact, he credits Delta Upsilon not only for pushing him down the road to start a successful career and providing him with friends who support him, but Delta Upsilon has saved his life. Please welcome Bryant McLaughlin, Oregon 2020, for his Ignite the Broken Thread.
Family. For a lot of people, when I say that word, it puts this vision in your head of every time you go back home and you get to see the people that you love, your immediate family, right? For me, that's my mom. It's been me and her basically since I've been, I guess, about 1 year old. So every time I go back home, I get to see her. She's been my biggest role model in life, the business world, and just being an overall great person. That being said, it was a little hard for me growing up to open up to my mom, just because she is such a great role model to me, such a kind person all the time, and I really didn't want to bother her with anything. I know it was really hard for her, and I really appreciate everything that she's done for me. So imagine my surprise whenever I go to my second chapter for Delta Upsilon, just accepted my bid, and I hear a man named Abraham speak about how his mother has just gone to the hospital and is going to surgery the next day. I thought that was probably the coolest thing ever, that somebody could bring that up in front of a group of people and just not feel judged about it at all, and that everybody was so kind, so caring, and just openly went with him. There were even a few people who went to go visit his mother with him in the hospital the day after that. So I decided that I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to be open, I wanted to open up, I didn't want to cage any of my feelings, I wanted to share my experiences with my brothers. I thought that was what true belonging was. So, week 7 of that term, I got some of the best news ever. I was finally going to have a stepdad. So, my mom had finally married her high school sweetheart, and they were going to get married a month later. And I got to share that awesome moment with all of my brothers. It was probably one of the best moments I've had in chapter, and it was really like a turning point for me, where I got to open up to my brothers and actually share my feelings with people. It was probably, I'd say probably top 3 DU moments I've had. But unfortunately, the term after that, I had some not so good news that I got to bring to the attention of the chapter. I didn't feel comfortable bringing this up during chapter, but I did talk to a few individuals about this separately. My mom had been diagnosed with melanoma as well as ovarian cancer. A lot of brothers had gone through this themselves, either with a family member or having their own battle with this horrible disease themselves. So it was great to get to talk to them and kind of lighten the load a little bit. I got to talk to somebody who had just had lymph node cancer, I believe it was, something to that effect. And he really helped talk me through that and just know that everything was going to be okay. It's treatable. Luckily, we had caught it early, and it just helped. I don't know. It was like me starting a new family and really belonging. And then a full year from there, so winter term of my sophomore year, I got some unfortunate news after a biopsy that I had melanoma as well. So it wasn't life-threatening, which is good, don't worry, I'm okay. But I got to go into chapter, and I told everybody about it, because I thought it was important that they know that that could have been any of us. I was only 19 years old at this point. I thought I was invincible. You know, everybody says that when you're a kid, but you don't think about having cancer whenever you're a 19-year-old guy. And I don't think anybody in that room thought that they would either. But it's a very real possibility, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody would get checked. So everybody was super receptive to this. It even stopped like the whole pass the gavel ceremony. I don't know if you guys have this, but it's basically everybody gets to have their own little say at the end of chapter, and it stopped the whole ceremony. I got hugs from a ton of people. I had people coming up to me and talking to me, asking if I'm okay. People talking about how they'd gone through it again. It was really cool. I really got that sense of belonging. So I decided I wanted to give back. I wanted to run for exec so that I could make sure that everyone got that same experience. I wanted to be vice president of finance because that was my major. I was finance and accounting, and I was the numbers guy, and I thought that that was the best spot where I could be open with people, talk to them about a really hard subject, and walk them through that process like they'd done for me. So my freshman year, this was before all of this had even happened, I was already deciding that this would be a good idea. We had somebody drop out of that position. And I was like, oh, wow, that's awesome. I get to go and actually run for this, like right when I've been in here, I can get some good career experience. And then somebody else got nominated for this position who I knew was a much better candidate for myself, or than myself. So, just being persistent, I went and talked to our old vice president of finance, Kennedy Salvador, and he said something that really kind of changed my perspective. I talked to him and I was like, I know I'm gonna lose, but like I wanna do my due diligence in this. And he's like, don't say that. You can still win this, like don't count yourself out. Just because you're not as experienced as him doesn't mean that you're gonna not get this position. You gotta go in there and you gotta give it your all. And I did, and I lost, which is okay, because sometimes you do lose. But I did get to talk to everybody after that who was on the new exec board, and they said that I would be a great candidate next year. So I ran again next year, and I got that position. Had no idea what I was doing with it, but I knew that I wanted to give back and that I wanted to talk to everybody about their finances and make sure they felt comfortable talking to me about it. What I didn't know is that we had $3 in our bank account and 10 grand worth of debt. So not the best position to be thrown into, but I got a lot of good experience. So I figured that was kind of like my best position there, but then I'm sure as a lot of people in this room have kind of had happen to them, I had somebody tap me on the shoulder, our old president, Dominic Black, if y'all know him, and he tapped on my shoulder and he's like, hey, would you consider running for president? And I was like, no, like why would I do that? That's silly. I'm not like gonna be the leader of this fraternity. I wanna give back, I think this is my best position. And through talking with him, it really kind of turned me around to that. And I figured that president would honestly be the best position where I could be the face of a chapter and I could talk to everybody on a personal level and I could get to know them. And even if I am just the talking figurehead up here that like talks to IHQ and emails people, I still get to know everybody throughout the process better than probably most people. All of this started just because one person had the courage to say, even if you're a freshman, you should go after these positions. Doesn't matter how unqualified you are or how well qualified somebody else is. You're a person. And I think that's probably the best message I could give all of you. Build everyone in your chapter, the guy that sits next to you, the guy that you don't know, build him into the best him possible. You never know what could come from that. Thank you.